not going to be for the sales price, it's going to be for the cost, negative 78. We're going to have a debit related to that amount of 78. And the question is, what will that debit be? This is going to be a new account for a merchandising company, the account that represents us using inventory in order to help us generate that revenue, this revenue that we earned. It's called an expense. All our expenses are down here. It's the most important expense. It doesn't have the word expense in it, which is cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is the expense of us using the asset, consuming it, giving it away in order to help us generate revenue. So all expenses have debit balances. We're going to make it go up by doing the same thing to it, which in this case is another debit. So there we have it. Once again, I just want to point out that a lot of textbooks may put this in one journal entry and have the two debits on top, the credits on the bottom, and it's a lot easier conceptually to think of the sales half of it and the merchandising type half of it in this format. So in my opinion, if there's a choice to put it in a formula that's better suited for you to see it and go back and see it, that is better than formatting in debits on tops and credits on the bottom. However, if you see it in a different format, you need to be able to kind of realize that and recognize it. All right, so let's post this out then. And I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, back down to 70 over here. We're going to post the receivable account. So the receivable is the second account. We've got to scroll around a bit in order to see stuff, and that does get a little distracting, but let's work with the Excel sheet. Receivable is the second account over here. It's going to go up in this case. So we are in O28 equals, pointing to that 13,000, taking the receivable up from 33.9 to 46.9. Then we're going to take a look at the sales account. Sales account down here. Sales account is down here in the blue area. And so therefore we're going to go in the blue area, same order over here in sales. All sales are going to be credits. They always go up. So I'm in AB15 equals, I'm going to point to that 13,000 over here, bringing the sales up in the credit direction. So we're going up in the credit direction. That brings net income up in the credit direction. All right, now we're going to post the other half of it. Cost of goods sold here. Cost of goods sold is down here. Cost of goods sold on the general ledger then will be over here just a little bit over on this side. And it's going to generally be all debits because it's an expense account. I'm in AE10 equals, I'm going to put my cursor down and I'm going to post the left arrow a couple times so I can see the full journal entry and then point to that 7.8. Notice I'm on cell D31, enter, and then if I scroll back over here, if I point on it, I'm on cell D31. When I hit enter, 7.8 brings the cost of goods sold up. So note what happened on the income statement. Income went up by sales, went down by the cost of goods sold. The net effect on net income, 5,002. Now let's record the merchandise inventory. Here, it's the third account on the trial balance here, third account on the general ledger. It's going down in this case, so we're in T12 equals, and we're going to point to that 7.8 and enter, and there we have that. Also note that we have now hit the receivable account here. So if we look at the receivable account, we did this. We should also record that in terms of the subsidiary ledger, in terms of who owes us the money. So we're going to go back over here, and I can see we're out of balance down here now. So we're looking for CF company. So that's going to be over here. They owe us more money. We're going to say equals, and then come back over to the journal entry and point to that 13 and enter. So now this company owes us more money. If we add up all the companies that owe us money, adds up to 46.9. That should tie out to the 46.9 on the general ledger, which should also tie out to the amount on the trial balance. Okay, next transaction, we're now down here on 418 again. All right, and we received cash from CG company for sale on account in the past, less the discount. Okay, so first we can just think of, well, is cash affected? And it is, because we received it. So we're going to scroll back up here. Cash has a debit balance. We're going to make it go up. And it has a debit balance. We're going to make it go up by doing the same thing to it, which in this case would be another debit. So I'm going to be here in C34, debit. Question, how much are we going to debit for? And again, it gives us all the information. It says we got 8,820, but the original invoice was 9,000. So in other problems, they might not tell us the amount we received. In real life, we would see it. The check would be what the check is. But in a problem, they might say, hey, here's the original invoice. There was a 2% discount. figure it out. So if we had to figure it out, it would be 9,000 times 0.02. The discount is 180 minus the 9,000 means we got 8,820. If we think about that in one calculation, if we had an original invoice of 9,000, 2% discount means we're going to get 1 minus 2%, or 98%, gives us the amount of 8,820. So I'm going to do that same calculation up here just so we can see that. We're going to get equals the original amount of the invoice, 9,000, times 0.98, 100% minus 2% means we're going to get 8,820. Okay, so then we're gonna get that amount. We're not going to credit sales because we already made the sale. We are going to credit, I'm going to make this a little bit larger. We're going to credit the, in this case, receivable account. People owe us money, and now they have paid us. So this account needs to go down. The credit's going to go to the receivable because it's a debit balance. We need to make it go down by doing the opposite thing to it, which in this case is a credit. So here's the credit. However, the credit will not be for 8,820 because we put the original invoice in there. Receivable is including that 9,000. So within this amount on the receivable is people owing us 9,000. We could see that more vividly if we go over here to the subsidiary ledger. We go to our receivables over here, and we should have a receivable from CG owing 9,000. We can't reduce that for the amount paid, otherwise we will show on our books that they still owe us the discount amount. Therefore, we need to take the full 9,000 off the books. So I'm going to go over here, the credit will be 9,000 then. And then we're going to need a debit because if I highlight these, 9,000 minus the 8,820 is 180, which is the discount amount. And so I'm going to do that with the negative sum. Negative sum, the plug formula over here of these four cells means sum it up, flip the sign, gives us the 180. If I highlight all of it, debits minus credits equal 0 now. And where are we going to put that account? That's the sales discount. So remember what happened? We overstated sales when we made the sale because we put it on the books for 9,000. We're only going to get 8,820. We should reduce sales with the debit, but we don't like reducing sales. We like making this contra sales account, which is a sales account which usually has credit balances, but this one has a debit balance because it's reducing the sales balance. Acts like an expense, but actually it is a contra sales account. So I'm going to put this down here, right click, paste 1, 2, 3. Note that I have put this out of balance as well too. If I was in perfect conformity with a lot of the textbooks would usually put the sales discount before the receivable. But again, in my mind, I kind of like thinking it through this way. I kind of like having the sales discount as the plug. So if you need to reorder it, that's fine. If you leave it this way for me, that's fine. But if it helps you to think through it to order something in a different way, I would recommend doing that and then reordering it if you so need to, depending on the format that you're asked to give the information in. So we're going to go ahead and post this out then. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to take this down to 70 on the taskbar so we can see more stuff. And we're going to post the cash first. So cash is on top. Here's cash. And we're going to post this debit. So I'm going to go down here in the debit side in 013 equals. We're going to scroll down here and point to that 8820, bringing the cash up to 59,918. Then the next one is the receivables. If we look at the trial balance, that's going to be our second account. Therefore, it's the second account on the general ledger as well. So here's receivable in P29 and equals, pointing to that 9,000 over here, bringing the balance from 46,9 down to the 38,9. Then we need to post the discount. Discount is in the blue section on the trial balance. So discounts are over here in the blue section on the general ledger. And we're down here in AA30 equals, pointing to that discount, 180, bringing the discount up to 390. That brings net income down by 390, and we are back in balance here. Also note that we posted to the receivable for that 9,000. So we're also going to have to record that, or I'm going to record that on the AR subsidiary ledger over here. CG no longer owes us 9,000. Note that we're out of balance down here because it's red. And so we're going to go over here and we're going to go on the credit side. I'm going to post the same information. I'm going to say equals, point to the general journal, and we're going to go to this 9,000, posting the same information, but in order by client in this case. Scrolling down, people now owe us 37,9. That also is on the general ledger, 37,9. Also on the trial balance, 37,9. Okay, so we're going to make this a little bit larger, back to 90 on the taskbar over here. We're going to scroll back over on this side, and we are now on up here now on 425. It says we received cash from NG for invoice sent in the past less discount. All right, so is cash affected? Yep, we received cash, so received stuff. So cash has a debit balance. We're going to make it go up by doing the same thing to it, which in this case would be another debit. So I'm going to copy that. Going to scroll down, and this is on 425, so I'm going to skip a line. 425, debit on top. I lost it, so I'm going to scroll back up here. Cash. I could just type it in there, but okay, I'm going to paste it down here. Paste it 1, 2, 3. Okay, so cash went up, and then received cash for invoice sent in the past. So why are we receiving cash? We did work, we gave merchandise, but we're not going to credit sales now because we did that in the past. We're going to credit the IOU. People owe us $37.9, have now paid us. That account needs to go down. We already know we're going to credit it because we debited cash. It has a debit balance in it. A credit would be the opposite, which would make it go down. That's what we want. So we're going to scroll down here. We're going to put that on the bottom. Right click, paste it 1, 2, 3. And note that we are scrolling around a lot on the sheet now. That's why it's important when you set up the sheet to try to put it in a system where it's as close together as possible, so you have this minimum amount of scrolling. But then the question is, how much are we going to receive, and how much should the receivable go down by? So note that the original invoice was for 4.5. Once again, it tells us how much we got. Some problems will not. So let's try to think that through. We're going to say, well, the original invoice was for 4.5. They paid us within the discount period. Therefore, we're going to give a 2% discount times 0.02, $90 discount, minus the 4.5 means we're going to get 4,410. If we do that with one calculation, 4.5 times 0.100 minus 2%, 0.98, means we're going to get the 410. So let's do that calculation down here. We're going to say cash, we're going to get 4.5 times 0.98 means we're going to get 4,410. And then the credit's going to be not for 4,410 because within this number, people owe us the full amount of 4,005. And again, we can see that more clearly over here. If we look at the subsidiary ledger and we scroll up to people that owe us money, we should have someone that owes us 4.5. Here it is, owes us 4.5. And if we only reduce it by the amount received, it'll show that they still owe us that $90 discount, but they don't. So we need to take it off the books for the full amount of the invoice, which in this case is credit 4.5. Now we can see the credits are beating the debits, so we need a debit of $90. And so I'm going to do that with the negative sum function. And there we have it. So that 90, it's just the 4.5 minus the 4,410 is the 90. That's the amount of the discount. Then the only question is, where are we going to post that discount to? And that will once again be the sales discount. So we overstated sales in the past. We don't want to reduce sales. We want to make another contra sales account, which in this case is a discount. Why is it a contra account? Because most sales accounts have credit balances. This is a debit balance sales account, really reducing the sales. And there we have it. So I'll post this one out, be very similar. I'm going to reduce this to 70 on the taskbar. We're looking for cash first. So I got to scroll way up here, look for cash. Here's cash on the trial balance. Here's cash on the general ledger. We received it, so we're on the debit side in 014 equals, scrolling down, pointing to the 4,410 and enter. Then we're looking for the receivable. Here's the receivable here. Here it is on the trial balance. And here it is then on the general ledger. So there it is, the second account. And we are on the credit side, so I'm just going to say equals. Point to that 4,005, going to bring the receivable down. People no longer owe us that money. Last one's in the sales discount. So sales discount, if we look on the trial balance, is in the blue area. Sales discounts, we've got to be over here in the blue area on the general ledger. There it is, only goes one way, goes in the debit direction. Equals in cell AA31, that $90 bringing the sales discount up to $480. That brings net income down by that $480. We're also noting that we recorded something in the receivable account. We are recording it by date of transaction or order of transaction. In this case, we also need to record it by who owes us money, or I will. We don't need to in this problem, but I'm going to do that to show that. So we're going to go over here and say that the people owe us money. Here, MG owed us money. We're going to credit that. I'm going to say equals, point to the journal entry, that 4-5. And so now they no longer owe us money. If we add up all the people that owe us money, adds up to 33.4, which should tie out to the general ledger, which should tie out to the trial balance.